I'm not feeling very well, so if I make some weird facial expressions, it's because I'm in pain. I've got a stomachache today. I'm also recovering from last week's cold, but greetings, fellow snowflakes. Metal is in my blood. Freedom. It's a word that inspires many people. It is supposed to be a foundation stone of the United States of America, and in the UK we also aspire to the concept of freedom. Yet bigotry is all around us, and there are many forces in the world that attempt to dictate and control people. When I was a teenager, I became interested in heavy metal music, and I immersed myself in that culture. It spoke to the darkness in my soul, the anger and melancholy that I couldn't quite understand, and felt like a place of belonging for the bullied and the misunderstood. I was also raised Christian, and soon became aware of the many ways that certain forms of Christianity tried to demonize heavy metal music and culture and even legislate against it. As a result of witnessing this, I soon began to understand some of the anti-Christian rhetoric in metal lyrics. Mocked and criticised for my long hair and my taste in music, I soon began to feel a connection and empathy for other marginalised groups, such as black and Asian people, gay and lesbian people, disabled people, etc. I came to hate conformity, tyranny and the bullying of the mainstream towards those who didn't fit into it for whatever reason. I also began to develop something of a bullshit detector with regards to the kinds of rhetoric and ideology that seeks to control people, suppress their natural urges and dictate to them how they can or can't be in society. This is a valuable kind of moral compass to have, and I will remain metal in spirit to the end. Political correctness is all very well, and I'm nothing against people making an effort to be thoughtful, considerate and kind towards others, but hypocrisy has a habit of slipping in under the radar when false politeness is your moral compass. I'm a big fan of irreverence, righteous anger and attitude when dealing with those who try to oppress us. Fuck you, I won't do what you tell me, as Rage Against the Machine famously said in the lyrics to Killing in the Name of. So, in the spirit of my uncouth heavy metal moral compass, here are 3 groups of people that wind me up on social media. The old enemies, fundamentalist Christianity, white nationalists and other racists, violent homophobes and sexist macho dickheads, are of course also groups I have strong disdain for, but most people can see just how controlling and deplorable they are. Plus, by this stage in my life I've heard their bullshit a million times and can easily dismiss it. But there are 3 other enemies that are gathering a lot of support online and manage to seem like they believe in freedom, respect, equality and an end to oppression, but this is deceptive. Firstly, of course, there are the men's rights advocates, the men's rights movement, the MGTOW and to some extent anti-feminists. Such a shame. I understand some of the anti-feminist sentiment. I believe there may be a flaw at the heart of feminism that allows the extremists to flourish. That flaw is that the ways that men and biological males suffer from gender constraints is too often overlooked. The way that women are sometimes just as bad as men in forcing restrictive gender roles onto biological males is too often ignored, and women are not encouraged to challenge or question their own role in this. And the reason for both is that the issue of how gender hurts people has been addressed in a perpetually one-sided and imbalanced way. This made sense when there were huge obstacles of legal and institutional oppression for women to overcome, but now that so much great work has been achieved by feminism, it is perhaps time to recognise that the manifold ways in which gender hurts people these days is no longer specifically about one gender being hurt or oppressed by the other, but rather about all people being hurt and oppressed by the leftover manifestations of old sexist ways that also hurt men and males, and not just women and females. Feminism rarely seems to care about doing anything about it other than paying lip service to the idea in order to deflect criticism. And maybe feminism shouldn't be expected to do anything about men's problems, but at the very least it should be open to challenging the ways in which women too contribute to the imposing hurtful gender stereotypes on the men in their lives. Such a pity then, that the men's rights movement, which could be the exact kind of movement for this sort of reform, should in practice have turned out to be such a misogynistic dick-waving competition. Are MRAs interested in encouraging men that it's okay to be feminine? Are they interested in challenging the ways in which women expect men to be masculine? Are they interested in actually doing anything about the myriad of things they complain about? No, not really. All they're interested in doing, it seems, is attacking feminism, attacking transgender people, trying to argue away rape statistics, and in the case of MGTOW, running away into the woods to grow beards, beat their chests and chop down trees or something. Such a disappointment. We really need a movement that is about liberating all people, male and or female, from the shackles of gender. Instead, the important issues and talking points get represented by a movement that doesn't really want to do anything about it at all, but just wants to attack feminism and in some cases even deny that it did any good in the first place. Now how can I stand up for ending sexism against and the imposition of gender roles on boys and men without sounding like a misogynist feminist hater? Thanks MRAs, you bunch of dicks. Another group that winds me up the wrong way on social media are those radical feminists who don't believe that trans women are women. I believe they're often called trans-exclusionary radical feminists. This is an example of how very wrong feminism can get. My bullshit detector goes berserk whenever I talk to these people, because they do seem remarkably like that old enemy of mine, fundamentalist Christianity. Is it me, or do they seem to not like sex much? Many of them seem to like vanilla lesbian sex, but judging from the way they want to dismiss trans women as fetishists and will seize on any sex or kink talk from a trans woman as an aha moment that proves their own bigotry, I would conclude that they're not really that keen on kinks or fetishes of any kind. And they hate porn too, even though there are a lot of porn actresses that enjoy the work they do and did it out of choice. Check out this Sexplanations video. Well, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to stop being a horny fetishist just because you seem to think that women should be sexless, kinkless beings of virtue. And they seem to believe in something akin to original sin where anybody born with a penis is concerned. They call it socialization. The male body plus male socialization seems to result in an irredeemable inherent creepiness in those born with a penis, according to them. The natural resistance to male socialization that trans women often have, their dislike of their own bodies, and sometimes the sex acts involving them, the admiration trans women often have for cisgender women, including strong cisgender women, the hormones that would change the natural temperament and sex drive to a more female pattern, and even the body-altering surgeries do not seem to be enough, according to trans-exclusionary radical feminists, to cleanse the transgender soul of the taints of maleness. Some kind of creepy, objectifying male mind persists all the other changes, apparently, yet terse claim that they don't believe in a male or female mind. Remarkable. I have very little patience with people who are dictating to people and telling them what they can do or be. Gender hurts everyone, and it mostly does it by restricting choices and encouraging unfair, negative stereotypes about a group that really shares nothing except their physical anatomy. Let people throw off those shackles and be themselves. Let them identify in whatever way makes them feel whole and healthy. If we have to reshape society so that no one can ever make assumptions about a person's gender, then so be it. You can still address matters that relate primarily to biological sex. I'm with you on the need to preserve language that refers to biological sex and to still address those issues relating to it. I also understand your concern that those whose sexual preferences are based on the physical anatomy of their partners are in danger of being dismissed and made invisible by current terminology. This is why I think it's time we invented new language for talking about sexuality that can better describe and articulate the true complexities involved. But please, stop misgendering trans women. Stop cruelly mocking trans women. Stop dead-naming trans women. Stop making such hideously disgusting, objectifying and downright sexist comments about trans women's bodies, minds and behaviours. Some of the most sexist statements I've ever heard have come from the mouths of radical feminists, and you come across like mean-spirited, sex-hating, man-hating control freaks who just want to dictate to and control other people. And finally, there are the transgender people who throw around the term transtrender. The remarkable thing about their dismissal of any transgender individuals who do not choose to transition for whatever reason, or who identify outside of the gender binary, is that they use the exact same language as transphobes use against all transgender people. You're deluded, you're pretending, you've got a mental illness, you're just doing it for attention, you're a feminine man really, you're a butch woman really, you're confusing gender identity with gender expression, you're conforming to gender stereotypes, etc, etc. By the way, there are transgender individuals who end up physically transitioning, but who go through a phase of believing they're non-binary. Have you any idea about how your comments that they're just pretending and are not really trans might affect them? You are trying to force them back into the closet. At the very least, it will cause them a lot of unnecessary distress, confusion and emotional pain, the same kinds of feelings they experience when their gender identity is called into question by cisgender people. And it is not beyond the realms of possibility that if gender identity can be the opposite to your biological sex, then it can also be somewhere in between, especially since we know that biological sex itself can manifest as a mixture or in between in rare cases. Being neurologically intermediate in gender identity might feel like gender fluidity, bigender, agender or androgyny to the person depending on how they choose to articulate their experience of their own gender. And when you doubt the transgender identity of people who haven't transitioned yet, are unsure of whether they want to physically transition, and who don't yet pass as their identified gender, then you should really be ashamed of yourself. Not everyone knows they are transgender from the age of 3. Not everyone is sure about physical transition, and yet they are still transgender. There was a time in every transsexual's life when they had not yet physically transitioned and did not yet pass as their identified gender. How can you sleep at night betraying your transgender siblings in that way? People aren't finding transgender identities ridiculous because of non-binary people. Some people have always found transgender identities ridiculous and dismiss it as mental illness or the same thing as identifying as a cat or a dragon. Welcome to planet Earth. People are intolerant assholes sometimes. That doesn't give you the excuse to turn on your own and spew out the same rhetoric that people are spewing out to you. You should be ashamed of yourselves, you traitors. So that's my rude, uncouth denouncement of the groups of people that annoy me on social media. Hope you enjoyed. Stay irreverent and don't take any shit. We're all different, we're all special, snowflakes unite. Thanks for watching.